Most Agile teams are slow as f***. And here's the kicker, it's not even their fault. AI killed it. Execution that used to take weeks now takes hours. A solo founder with ChatGPT can outpace a 10-person development team running sprints. Agile teams are still optimizing for the wrong game. There's a dirty little secret in the software world. Everyone knows it, but no one wants to say it out loud. Most Agile teams are slow as f***. And here's the kicker, it's not even their fault. Agile was designed for a world where execution was brutally expensive, where ideas were cheap, and speed came from cramming as many developers as you could into a 2-week sprint. That world is dead. AI killed it. Execution that used to take weeks now takes hours. A solo founder with ChatGPT can outpace a 10-person development team running sprints. The real constraint, the thing separating winners from everyone else, isn't how fast you build anymore. It's how smart your ideas are before you even start building. And most Agile teams are still optimizing for the wrong game. In this video, I'm going to show you why Agile quietly stopped being enough and the new system that gives it the 10x boost it desperately needs. And if you stick around to the end, I'll walk you through the exact loop we use to outpace entire product teams with a handful of developers and hit product market fit months earlier than the competition. If you're a founder, creator, or builder, this changes everything. Now let's talk about how Agile became slow as f***. Why Agile stopped being Agile. So back in the 1990s and early 2000s, waterfall was the way. Now waterfall was a slow motion catastrophe. It took months of planning, years of building, deadlines were missed constantly, and feedback that you got, if at all, was way too late to even matter. The software that finally got produced, if anything got produced at all, was terrible. So Agile swooped in to save the day. Now, Agile had brought shorter cycles, better communication, faster iteration, and it was a huge reduction in waste from the waterfall method that used to take months, years, or even longer. Ideas were cheap in this world, and the key was execution was the bottleneck. I think the saying was ideas are a dime a dozen, but execution, that's hard. So Agile was king of execution, but AI then changed everything. So execution that used to be this scarce thing moved to a place where it was almost practically free. So in the AI world, the AI writes the code. Teams of 1 can outpace teams of 10. Execution is democratized and everyone is fast. And so the competitive advantage has shifted from who builds the fastest to who builds the best ideas the fastest. So Agile is great at execution, but terrible at ideation. So here's where Agile breaks down. Agile optimizes for delivery, but not for discovery. It promotes backlog grooming. Now, if the backlog that you have in your Agile is great, then that's fine. But what happens a lot of times is the backlog gets stale and the Agile team just keeps moving that backlog forward. So what happens, it's almost like reorganizing the deck chairs on the Titanic. Like you kind of know this thing's off course, but we have a process to run, so we keep running it. And all the while, you're not expanding the vision, right? We're just getting narrower and narrower as we go through the project. So what happens is the teams end up building the smallest version of already small ideas. So Agile ships the wrong ideas fast, but Agile isn't dead. It's just incomplete. So beyond Agile, execution still matters. So I'm not saying that suddenly ideas are everything and execution doesn't matter. If you can't execute, you can't ship, you're not going to get to market. But it can't carry innovation anymore. We need upstream intelligence. We need bigger ideas and clearer ideas. And we need better slices when we build. We also need real-world validation. We can't wait 3 months to ship an MVP and then hopefully get some validation back. And we're not talking about just Agile 2.0 where we make a few tweaks to the Agile approach. What we need is an entirely new delivery system. So introducing Quantum IDE, which is a full life cycle for modern builders. So Quantum IDE goes from ideation, where we diverge and expand possibilities. Then it goes to a process of distillation, and this is where we converge to clarify the highest value path. Then it goes on to execution. So the third step of Quantum IDE is actually very similar to the existing Agile. Agile style sprints, but subtracting a lot of the rituals that the people who do Agile today are used to. And then finally, we get to validation, where we get real world feedback. And so Quantum IDE is not just execution, right? It's ideation and it's validation. It's a full stack of innovation. So why Quantum IDE? So Quantum IDE makes your ideas 10 times better before you even put the shovel to the ground and start building them. It expands the idea space. So rather than having an idea and running with it, it first asks, what are all the different parallel possibilities that we can do before we move forward? It uses AI to assist this creative process. So it takes that gem of an idea and then uses AI in a very specific way to blow that idea out into a million different related ideas, right? And then it gives you distilled clarity. So instead of just saying, here's our idea, we're going to go with it, now you can look across the span of ideas and possibilities and have real clarity in terms of what's likely to work and what isn't, right? And it gives you strategy in every build slice, right? So a lot of times what happens is by the time functionality got to stories in Agile, we kind of lost the why, right? So it kind of come a few steps and we don't know why we're building this. We're building this piece of component that we have to build. But with Quantum IDE, every single slice you build has the hypothesis built right into it. And that creates much cleaner Agile sprints because you know why you're building something before you build it. It also gives you faster validation. So Quantum IDE allows you to improve your idea quality by 10x before you even start building. Now, here's how it works. Step 1 is what's called quantum ideation. So this is where we take that seed of an idea and we blow it up into an opportunity space. So we're using AI-powered divergent brainstorming. So it's a very blue sky exercise, right? Anything goes when you're doing this. And the goal is to really take that one idea and come up with as many variance possibilities as possible as you do that process. Then what this does is gives you the possibility mapping across different markets, across different verticals, across different users. Maybe we think the business is here, but maybe there's something over here right next to it that looks really interesting as well. That's the kind of thing that we want to explore during quantum ideation. It allows you to push the limits by using very specific prompts that help the AI to do that in just the right way. So what would this idea look like 10x? How would Apple or Tesla approach this idea? What things would they do that we're missing? So that's the idea of quantum ideation, is to look at every different possible idea or lens to look at your idea before you attack it. So what it does is it's massively expanding that idea space, again, before you start building. Now, the next step, so since we've done this divergent thinking process, what'll happen is at the end of quantum ideation, you're going to have this big soup of possible ideas that, things that you can execute. So the next step is quantum distillation. This is where we switch from that divergent mode thinking to a convergent mode thinking, where we want to go through this soup of ideas we came up with and figure out what is it actually that we want to go forward and build. So it takes this messy possibility and it turns it into a buildable plan. It allows you to converge on the highest value path, because rather than come up with an idea that may have looked like it was a really valuable path, and it may have actually been a valuable path, we're looking at that path next to it that's even 5 times as valuable before we do that. It uses a process of value scoring, right? So we're looking at business impact, differentiation, feasibility, and a very important thing that often gets overlooked is time to demo. How quickly can we take this idea and turn it into a demo that can visualize it so that potential users can respond to it? It also takes vertical slice extraction, which is what are the smallest pieces that you can build that have the biggest potential value. So bottom line is it takes that first step where you've got the big set of possibilities and it turns it into a prioritized and aligned roadmap to move forward. The next step is quantum execution. Now this is the part that's going to feel much more similar to Agile than anything else in this process, right? So this is Agile, but without all the bloat. So it's lighter, cleaner, faster. It consists of micro sprints. So instead of these 2-week or longer sprints, you've got 3 to 5 day build loops where we have real focused functionality and we attack that functionality. It's got AI assisted engineering at every step of the way, right? We've used AI for the ideation process. Now we're using AI to help expedite that execution as well. And you use daily asynchronous updates. So instead of rituals and meetings where developers have no time to do any work because they're spending all their time in meetings or satisfying the Agile gods, right? This is like you can use Loom videos, you can use Slack, Teams, whatever communication device makes sense to very quickly asynchronous provide updates so that everyone knows that things are moving forward. And it also has continuous integration. So as we build stuff, it's continuously going into that demo or that product. So the goal here during quantum execution is to create maximum flow So from a developer's perspective, developers get into flow when they're in deep work. So when they can take things and just go all the way down the rabbit hole of building that thing and not keep popping up to fill out forms, to run rituals and things like that. So that's the goal. And ultimately, because you're in flow, that's what's going to create the most progress. Which brings us to step 4, quantum validation. So this is where we do real feedback before we overbuild. Right? So the goal here is we want to do the minimum amount we can build to just get feedback. Are we even on the right track? Is it worth going forward, or should we cut the bet now before we go any further? It allows you to get rapid user tests on the demo and to get behavioral feedback versus opinion feedback. So it's great that someone says they like this, but what we really want to do is figure out, would they use this? Would they pay for it? Would they do that today? So we're doing value clarity tests with our users. So we're not just asking them what they think. It also provides a demo to pilot pipeline. So as we build the demo and we're visualizing what this looks like, we're actually using the same tools that we're going to use to engineer the MVP. So the demo can expand into that MVP and actually become the product and become the pilot that we ship. And it also anchors the next ideation cycle, right? So we've done that execution, now we're validating it. As we go into the next ideation cycle, it gives us more to think about as we think about the possibilities in terms of what we should or shouldn't do, in terms of what are people responding to in the actual market. So the key here is that hard data drives insights and clarity, and that's where quantum validation comes in. So let's step back and say Quantum IDE versus Agile. So Agile, you build out a task app, you fill out 40 tiny Jira tickets. Maybe 10 weeks later, you've built some kind of commodity. There's no product market fit, or certainly there's no guarantee that you're moving in that direction. The morale drops, right? As developers are stuck in minutia, they're less in that state of flow and things get less and less interesting to them as they move forward. You end up stuck in rituals where we're feeding the agile gods instead of actually building the thing that we're trying to build in the first place. And as we said before, it's a slow execution of a small idea. So what started out kind of small is getting smaller and smaller as we go, and it's not coming to market very fast. So that's pretty demoralizing. Quantum IDE, on the other hand, takes that same seed idea that we would start building with Agile, but looks for bigger differentiators around the idea. So we try to blow up that idea space first. It creates clearer prioritization because we know we've explored every possibility before we do that prioritization exercise, which gives you more focused execution because we have much more clarity on why are we building these components in the first place. It gives you faster validation, which gives you instant signal. And it gives you the smart execution of the highest potential idea that you can find during that quantum ideation session. So Quantum IDE allows you to build smart and fast. So let's summarize the Quantum IDE loop. So Quantum IDE is a new life cycle of elite builders. We start with quantum ideation, where we expand our idea. We move on to quantum distillation, where we refine that idea. Then we move into quantum execution, where we quickly build that idea. And we move into quantum validation, where we confirm that idea, or find out if it's not correct, we find new ideas from that process. The AI accelerates at every step of the process. And this is systematic innovation, not just luck. So Quantum IDE is the new build standard for the post-2025 world. What does this mean for builders? Agile-only teams are playing the wrong game. They're optimizing throughput of tiny ideas. Idea quality is the new leverage. And Quantum IDE gives you 10x on the vision, 10x on the clarity, and 10x on the speed. Quantum IDE is your unfair advantage. So in summary, Agile isn't dead. It just needs a boost. Quantum IDE is the new standard that gives it that boost. Like and subscribe if you enjoyed this video and if you found it informative. And feel free to reach out if you have any more questions that you want to go deeper on this topics. We're going to be putting deep dives on each of these phases in the channel, and we'll be providing real examples of every one of these steps in terms of how they work in the real world. And we'll also be doing founder strategy sessions that we'll be hosting in the channel. So definitely stay tuned for those. Let's build the future together. Thanks for joining, and I look forward to seeing you on the next video.